You ready?
Always.
All right. I think let's all do it. Episode 55, Between Two Wheels podcast, cycling news, commentary, analysis, and interviews from Northern California. This episode is brought to you by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get special life insurance rates. Go to healthiq.com/BTW to support the show and learn more. And as always, subscribe and share the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, and whatever the podcast service you use. And for this week, we're also once again on our YouTube channel, Between Two Wheels podcast. Also interact with us on the Facebook page by searching Between Two, the number 2, Wheels. And the links will also be in the show notes in the description of this feed. Welcome again. This is Tyler Janke, and we have in studio Chris Flower. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. A little tired, little frazzled at the end of the week here, but doing good.
Do you want to go into why you're tired and frazzled?
Not really.
Okay. And Curt?
It's a long week.
Curt?
I think he's here in spirit.
I don't even think he's here in spirit anymore.
No, I think he's phoning it in.
Yeah.
I wish he was phoning it in.
Yeah, he could Skype in. We've done that kind of stuff. Okay, so Chris, what kind of bike stuff did you do this week? Tell us a little bit about your week, and I'll tell you about mine.
Yeah, I had some bike action, and I actually
Wait. So
ventured out into some non-bike stuff as well. No, Tuesday and Wednesday, hit up the local race ride scene just to try and maintain whatever fitness I've got. And yesterday, actually, I went for a run as well. So mixing it up.
That's not very bike-like.
It's not bike-like, but I was feeling a little tired and just needed a quick hit. And it was easier than putting on a bunch of kit and filling up water bottles and checking tires, and just went out for a jog.
That is a way to do that quick, short, time-crunched efforts to boost your CTL just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit. I think if I had the trainer still set up, I might have just jumped on that because that would have been even easier, but I've since put that away.
Gotcha. Well, I'm just going to give a little update about myself. I had a little health issue coming on.
Uh-oh.
So, well, you know a little bit more about it, but without getting too much, I went to the ER twice this last week for issues that are just bizarre. We did so last week we had the Winchester Circuit Race in Auburn Crit, and the week before that we were doing some efforts, and I had this weird recovery issue that my heart rate would just not go down, and my power would not go up, and it lasted. You were towing me around for a little bit. I just could not recover, and it was really odd. And then all of a sudden, boom, the heart was fine, and I felt really good for the rest of the day. But it was enough of a little setback or scare that I told my wife about it, and then there were some other things during the week, just wasn't recovering right. Did Winchester seemed fine. Some weird spikes though in my data as far as heart rate, which were a little concerning. I think it was just data anomalies, really.
Yeah.
I also looked around and I'm like, there's no one in this field that I'm getting the same, that I'm picking up their heart rate monitor, because we're all old men. You can't get the numbers I was hitting.
You were in the low 2s or something like that. And yeah, there's nobody in our field that should be seeing those numbers.
No, it was 220, which, you do the calculation 220 minus your age, and that's where you start the baseline. Right. So it wasn't. Point is, feeling some weirdness, went into the ER on Saturday just to double check. And by the way, if you ever want to get through ER quickly, tell them you have a chest pain.
Ooh.
You're number one. I got in line quick, did all these tests. They're fine. Heart rate was low, and they seem to be okay. Anyway, check in with my general doctor on Monday. Go in there, and they hook me up to the EKG. It's at 36, which is normal for me. I've got a low resting heart rate. I'm fit.
Yeah.
They freak the F out. Call 911. Send this over to a cardiologist. They make me take an ambulance to the ER.
How far is the distance between your general and the ER?
It was my general's in El Dorado Hills.
Okay.
So I don't know, 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
So
you probably could have driven there just as fast.
Well, my wife was there with me, and she's like, "Oh, what?" So she drove by herself, and I'm in this ambulance with guys that are more fit than. And it seems anyway. Check me. I've been to the doctor. We've got some other issues. I do have what's called the mitral valve prolapse. Maybe this is all part of it. But you know what? Hey, I'm getting checked out. I'm doing a stress test. I'm just off the bike for a while. They said you can spin around, just can't do much efforts. But that's where I am at personally. And what's interesting is there's that book out, Haywire Heart. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I have, yeah.
Okay. And then, the guy, the Gollarts that died, and they're talking, and there was some more articles. Basically, I'm a little more interested in this topic as it is now, and having a cardiac arrest on the bike and those kind of issues and different problems you can have with your heart. So I'll give you some more updates as the situation goes on. Maybe I'll be able to report back to kind of those issues that we've heard about, people having cardiac arrest on the bike. I can give a little bit better insight to it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what you can learn from your cardiologist as you go through it, and if you can kind of apply any of that knowledge to what we've seen recently in the pro ranks.
Yeah, so my goal is to knock that stress test out of the park, see what I could do. Although I've been eating a little bit too intensely lately, so I may actually have a legitimate heart issue just based on my So anyway, how's your health? Sorry to captivate the audience here.
Yeah, in comparison, no, I feel like I'm in good health. I didn't have the same heart issues during Winchester. I mean, our RPE was through the roof. Heart rate wasn't that high, so I think it was just it was a tough course for me. But other than that, I feel like I'm doing okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about Winchester. So let's just kind of give a breakdown of what things we are going to start here. We're going to talk about, so Netherlands, they just display all their traffic furniture in the Ardennes Classic with the Amstel Gold. We had the Amstel Gold. We had Fleche Wallonne. Upcoming this weekend, we have Liege-Bastogne-Liege. We'll talk about those. The Giro just had their kind of little warm-up race. It used to be the Giro del Trentino, and they call it Tour de Alps. Hits Switzerland, Austria, and some of Italy. Chris, you want to discuss your favorite race, the Tro Bro Leon?
I can touch on that a little bit. Yeah,
we'll do that.
Definitely.
Domestically, we had the men and the women in, I think it was Arkansas, the Joe Martin stage race. And now they're hitting up in the Tour of Gila as well. And then, so locally also, we have... Well, I guess those aren't locally. Those are domestically. But locally, we had Auburn, Winchester, Kingsburg, and Visalia, and we'll give a little breakdown of that.
Fantastic. Sounds great.
All right, let's just start with the World Tour. Okay, Amstel Gold. Look, we're going to kind of brush through some of this because there's been so much racing this last few weeks that it's a little daunting. And do you guys want us to do like the Joe Rogan style 3-hour podcast? No, we don't want that either. It's Friday afternoon. We want to get out of here. Let's talk. So we're going to just briefly go over some of these things. I did watch Amstel Gold. Did you happen to see Amstel Gold yourself?
I did. I caught maybe the last 25K, give or take. So it was a pretty active race. Good result overall. A lot of activity there in the last, 10K or so when the break got caught. So
that is a spaghetti route. I mean, it's confusing. It's some blind man put this together with us. I don't know, it's something, and it's a crazy route that they take.
And I think at the end they do. It's loops. Another challenging race to watch because it's early in the morning, so I kind of tune in and out.
Yeah,
fall asleep a little bit during it. They do a couple laps on the closing circuit. Is that right? So they kind of go through the start finish more than once.
Yeah, I don't even know if you call them loops, but they definitely go over the last bit climbs. They repeat that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lawson Craddock gets in the break early on, and he ends up sticking it. I mean, I was watching, and he was coming off of the break a few times right before they were getting caught, and I'm like, okay, he's going to do the typical thing, but he hung on. I think he was the only guy from the break to still be up there near the top 10 because it was everyone else. And then Lawson, he ends up, 8th place, I think?
I think 8th or 9th?
Yeah, I think it was 8th place. 8 or 9, I don't know.
9.
It was 15 minutes. There were 8 or 9 in the group, and they had 15-minute advantage at one point. And then to get caught, I think Jim Miller and some others posted out his training peaks. His TSS was like off the hook. His power was crazy for 6 hours or whatever.
His power was like 285 for 6 hours, and he's not a
and normalized
big guy.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean it's a heck of a day on the bike.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
It was. And then some of the other items we had here: Sagan, Greg Van Avermaet, Valverde, Jobert, and Astana. They're all Astana. They're all in the mix, keeping that pressure on. To me, Jobert looked a little weak and all of that.
He did, yeah. And I think it was either just not being able to go with moves or just kind of hanging back in the group, realizing that, maybe if it comes back together, he might have a little kick, but he wasn't in a position to really instigate any of the action. And
then Michael Matthews gets a flat kind of at the wrong time.
That was terrible, yeah. Just looked like there was a little descent, and then the wheel change came from neutral, and it definitely looked like it took a lot longer than it would if it was his team car coming up behind him.
I know people are really interested and excited about disc brakes, but I haven't seen a fast wheel. This wasn't a disc brake, but imagine if he had disc brakes in the wheel change. I don't imagine it being a quick one.
No, and then you got to wonder, is neutral going to be carrying something that's set up properly for your bike, or are you going to have your rotor rubbing the brake pads, or what's going to go on there?
Remember 2 years ago we had the whole issue with Froome on Von 2, where he cracks his bike. He needs a spare bike, and part of there's like platform pedals. Well, the reason they do that is because there's so many different pedal platforms out there. So they can't have something, so they'd have to have something that would just kind of work.
Right.
And imagine now with the wheels, if you've got, they're going to have to carry all multiple. I'm sure it's bad enough. I mean, you just talk. You want to talk later about technology changes with groups now going, 11s and 12s and Campies and Durace and SRAM. If there's incompatibility, now you add that issue too.
It's almost like they just have to carry neutral bikes more than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be a quicker change for the guys. I mean, if Matthews had another bike he could jump onto in that second, he may have been able to stick with that lead group, and he's got a pretty good finishing kick, so it might have been a good result for him.
And things change, and that's part of it, right? Flats and everything out there. So then you had Valgren and Kreuziger, basically with 2.2K or so. They just leapt out, and there they go. And
it looked like Kreuziger initiated that attack, and Valgren went with, and I think Sagan was still in the group with Van Avermaet, and they kind of looked at each other with the typical poker face of you go get it, and nobody went.
And they didn't do it, so that's how it ends up. Valgren ends up out sprinting Kreuziger. Gasparotto is making a leap back. He's won that race 3 times. Like, I don't think what does he do otherwise? Nothing. He just wins Amstel Gold.
Yeah, I don't think you really have to do much else if you're winning that 3 times.
Yeah, right.
The finish was kind of tough because Kreuziger looked like he was really well positioned on Valgren's wheel with about a K to go, and wasn't pulling through. And I don't know if he got a little nervous seeing Gasparotto coming up, but
I think so.
He kind of took it upon himself to lead out the sprint from about 300 meters, and you're just setting Valgren up for success by doing that.
Yeah, he not only let it out, but I think he took over around 600-700 meters too to go. So not just he's leading it, and then he starts to sprint early too. And that's from what I remember. The point is, it was way too early for him to hit the front instead of just saying, you know what, you do it. And Valgren wins it with, hands down. So not a problem. Okay, then we got Sagan in 4th place, Valverde, Wellens, Alaphilippe, Fuglsang, Craddock, Venator. I mean, that is a stacked top 10 there. And Lawson Craddock being able to poke his way into that, very impressive for him. I heard that he, a few years ago, I think it was just last year, he was really suffering. As a matter of fact, he was getting dropped and riding with Continental guys in the that Colorado race, 7-day stage race that they had out there. He was having a tough time. I don't think he finished it. I mean, he was getting hammered off, having a really bad year. I know he had some health issues, but he'd been working with Jonathan Vaughters, and now he's back with Jim Miller, and he seems to be looking good. You never know if this is a thing, but kind of makes you wonder about Vaughters kind of driving some of these guys. I know he's taken over a few of them, and I don't know that I've seen like stellar success. I don't know if Rigoberto maybe Rigoberto is right is working under Jonathan, but TJ, when he made his big breakthrough, he was trained by Jim Miller as well, and then went away from him, and he's done well, but I don't know, maybe Jim's a key aspect to some of these guys.
It could
or maybe
be
it's just a change.
When Craddock was struggling at you said Colorado, or was it Utah?
It was Colorado.
Was he with Giant then, or was he with?
No, this was last year.
With
Education First, and he were they last year? I mean, it's been so many names ago.
Chipotle? Is that right?
Chipotle was a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Garmin, something or other. Anyway, good for him. In the women's race, I don't know if you got a chance to see that. We had Chantal Black of Bowles Dolman, Lucinda Brand of Team Sunweb, and then Amanda Spratt of Mitchelton Scott, kind of coming in and spattering those 3 few seconds, and then 40 feet. So it looks like a break of about 5 or so. We were up there. Bowles Dolman, once again, just dominating the scene. So let's talk about Tro Bro Leon. You've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah.
Your buddy Damien Goudin had we posted on our YouTube page there, that celebration, which is a little outlandish. But he comes back and does a good job. Again, why don't you give a talk about why you like this race so much?
It's a really, so just from
Is it the name?
The name is cool. There was a really good write-up I sent over to you and Curt, just kind of previewing the race after the race had happened. It probably would have been good if I had sent it to you guys maybe the week before the race.
Yeah, because then I wasn't interested.
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of compared to like Strade Bianche or Paris-Roubaix in that it's not always on good tarmac. So they actually route the course where they use about 40 miles of kind of tractor road. So instead of Paris-Roubaix where they're using these, you can't call them pristine, but they're kind of cobbles that aren't used for any other time of the year other than for the race. So these are actually like working roads. These are the tractor roads. So it's kind of got a little bit of like blue collar appeal in that regard. And it's it's in the nice rolling countryside near the coast. It's
Which country?
Scenic. It's in France.
The Tro.
Yes, it's in the Tour of Leon is apparently what Tro Bro Leon translates to, and it's it's got a short history. I think it came about in like the early 80s, and the guy who created the race created it to fundraise money for a religious school that he was working with. And if you win a piglet and a poster that's hand drawn by the race organizer himself.
How old is this race?
I think it came out in 84.
Okay, so
it's pretty young. And if you're the first Breton across the line, you also get a piglet. So
now,
it's.
Is it one of those trophies like Chico's the Pesquente where they hand the same one out each year? You just pass it along.
I don't think so. I don't know if they age that
piglet.
well. And I'm not sure
it's
if there's like
bacon after the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a responsibility to kind of keep the piglet, or if you can like donate it to some group or a
There's
petting
been some
zoo.
of those races where like in Swiss, where they get like a huge Toblerone or something like that.
Yeah,
or a cheese. One of those cheese wheels.
That'd be
that's
nice.
Enough,
yeah.
We're not going to the bathroom for like a year.
Right. That coupled with the bacon would be a bad combo. Jeez.
Or really good tasting.
Yeah, but no, it's a really cool race. It's scenic. You're going through all these stretches of gravel. I mean, it's like it's some pretty beat up roads. It'd be like if you sent Velo Promo over to Europe and said put on a race. These are the roads I think they'd pick because it's like these are just terrible roads. It's pretty cool. It's not a race that brings out all of the big teams either. So it's kind of some of the unknown guys get an opportunity to show their stuff. So last year, Damien Gaudin won, and most folks didn't know who he was. And I think that moved him up from kind of cycling's AA into cycling's AAA or maybe even majors. This year was a really good race. It was a break had gotten away, and the group moved to bring him back. And with about 20K to go, I think there was maybe a dozen guys left. And Damien Gaudin was just kind of falling off the back, chase back on, falling off the back, chase back on. And maybe 5K, 7K to go. The winner, I think it was Chris Laporte.
Yeah.
He broke away solo. And Gaudin had just reattached to the group and just went through the group and started chasing by himself. And for the last 3 kilometers, it looked like they'd both get caught. And they were able to hold off the group. Laporte won. I think that was definitely one of his bigger wins. I think he had a really bad either Roubaix or Flanders. And then Gaudin, he didn't repeat, but he had a great result as well. One of the things I liked is Laporte. His comment after winning was, I had rage today. I love this race. It's not part of the World Tour, but it's just as hard all the way. And I think a lot of the guys fight incredibly hard for it because it is kind of a pretty unique race.
A piglet.
That too. I mean, if you're really struggling as a mid to lower tier guy, I mean that's dinner for a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, Laporte's on Cofidis, so he should be getting at least a paycheck. And Damien Gaudin, he's on Direct Energy, so he as well. Yeah, 4 seconds. Laporte won over Gaudin, and then Gaudin had another 12 seconds over Jelle Mannertz. So good for them. Congratulations all the way around.
Worth checking out though. The problem is it just doesn't get as much video coverage in the States.
So kind of a French version of Strade, is that what you're saying?
Not as hilly, but yeah. It's kind of a hybrid of Strade and Paris-Roubaix.
When I've tuned into it, it looks like all those farm roads are already passed, so I haven't really had that appreciation until you sent me the article, and there's a bunch of pictures associated with it. It was kind of cool to see all that. I didn't even realize it was that kind of race. De Brandt's Peel, we had Tim Wellens win over Sonny Cabrelli and Tish Benoot. That's pretty solid little three go there.
Kind of an odd trio there if you take into the fact that Cabrelli's a pretty hardy sprinter.
Yes. Well, they had 9 seconds. Willens was a break on. Well, he held those off, and then Cabrelli obviously won from whatever group was left there.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Fleche Wallonne, they ride up and down, and they hit the Mur de Huy. It's a little under a mile climb. Locally, you did a good comparison. I was watching this, and I was like, oh, this looks like kind of like Beatty, this ride we have out here in Folsom, this climb.
Yeah.
And then you actually brought that up separately and did a comparison of the two, and they're like spot on with each other.
Yeah, it's a climb that I didn't really appreciate. I've climbed Beatty a lot of times, and I know how much it hurts. And I was kind of looking at Mur de Huy, and I pulled it up on Strava and took a look at the segment, and it's 0.77 miles at 10%, 397 feet of climbing, and Beatty's 0.76 miles at 10%, 385 feet of climbing. And it's KOMs are right at about the same time frame with each other, give or take a few seconds. And yeah, watching those guys go up that climb in the end of the race there, it definitely is impressive when you consider how painful and steep Beatty is. And Beatty's got a little bit of reprieve right before the finish with I wouldn't call it a descent, but a slightly flatter section where it maybe tapers down to 5% before it kicks back up to the finish. So it's it's definitely a really tough finish, and to see how those guys are still able to push the pace that hard at the end of the race is really impressive.
Did you take a look at the Beatty KOM and how far down till we found some good names
on the Beatty KOM?
Yeah, I just wondered if you saw my name up there.
I think you're like your third, fourth,
something. That one might have been the one that really killed my heart a few years ago. I did a great effort. Andrew Schmeezes tends to think it was a tailwind day. Maybe. That's
debatable. Nobody knows.
But did that effort, and just after, I was even talking to Adam Switters, because I remember the day he put his time up, which was, so it was like him, he's like 3:30, and then there was like Max Jenkins like at 3:44, I'm like 3:44, and some other people. So Adam had like 15 seconds, and he was like, oh, I did this huge effort, you like TT into it and do it over the top, and then you're like done. And then I think came along and like destroyed that one. It has like 3:15 now or something.
I think that's Tori Phillips,
yeah,
at like a million watts, give or take.
Yeah, so I'm done competing in that scenario. But they have a ride out there. I think it's the first of the year, like January 1st.
Yeah.
That they do. How many times you can do that climb in like an hour or something like that?
Yes, I've done that. It was not a wise decision. Not recommended.
Yeah.
I think I ended up doing 13 or 14. Charlie came out that day, did like 18.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't like doing it once, let alone that. Anyway, so that's so we had basically then you have this race coming in. There's a group off the front. I think Max Shackman is off the front of Quick Step with some of the guys, and they coming into the climb. And I'm always thinking like, hey, they're going to hit this climb. You got to get these guys back. They're going to just trail off. They're going to take it. And, they time it perfectly where they are basically droning him down. And you're expecting then, okay, Alejandro Valverde, he's won it 4 times in a row now?
Right.
Last 4 times. He's going to just take it. And he just did not quite have enough to take it over. And Julian Alaphilippe wins.
Do you think
underwhelming?
He didn't have enough in the legs? Do you think he started his jump a little too late? Did Alaphilippe just have more in the tank and able to pull away?
Well, if Alaphilippe has more in the tank, then I think it's the same that Valverde just doesn't have enough.
Well, Valverde still rode away from. Well, he didn't ride away from the other guys that he was with, but he definitely took second place with authority, so to speak.
Yes, he did. And you had Yelly Vanendert to getting third at 6 seconds back, and Kreuziger and Michael Matthews.
Matthews was up there.
Yeah,
huh?
you'd think Matthews would be able to, but that's just, it's steep and it goes. And back to your question about did Valverde mistime it? I mean, come on. He's won it the last 4 years. Do you think he knows when to go correctly?
He's just been very lucky before.
He's been very lucky. Green Valley. Then the women's race, we had Anna Vanderbergen. From Bowles-Dolman, Ashley Moulin-Paiso from Cervelo Biglow, and then Megan Garnier, Bowles-Dolman, American, in third. And they were pretty much cleared ahead of it. Well, Annemiek van Vleuten was in fourth, 6 seconds back, and Amanda Spratt, who we just talked about earlier, 17 seconds back for fifth place. So
that Bowles-Dolman team is they're doing pretty darn good for themselves.
They're kind of the quick step of the female reigns.
Yeah, and I think Megan kind of cut her teeth for a little bit in the NCNCA.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And they were over here last year at the Women's Tour California, I believe.
Right. Yep.
And we expect them back over here again this year. Hey, you wanna announce a little Between Two Wheels insight?
Yeah, no, that's speaking of the Tour California. We will be spending a little time behind the ropes with media credentials, getting some inside scoop for everybody. We applied for media credentials. We got them, all three of us. I do not know, as you pointed out, how easy that is. Like, do they hand those out like Pez or candy, or is it actually prestigious for us? I think it's pretty prestigious. I think we were pretty heavily vetted. I imagine they listened to all the shows to just confirm that we were very serious in our intent. Well, we were out there for the Folsom stage launch or an announcement for that, and so that maybe gave us a little credit. Anyway, our plan is we're going to be hitting just the local Elk Grove, Folsom, Tahoe, Sacramento, in a mix of all that, and do our thing. Try to get some cool interviews with. Try to focus on some California guys. Maybe we get some media people talk to us that everyone may know around. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? Maybe we'll just sit around and video ourselves eating bonbons or something. I think so. That's probably part of the behind the ropes experience. Yeah. We've got to experience all that. So we're looking forward to that. Okay, any winners and losers? Winners, to start with those for the World Tour coming as it's been so far. Can I pick two? Is that fair? Sure. Awesome. So I'll take Curt's pick since he's not here. Yeah. First off, I'd like to say Lawson Craddock for a phenomenal race. Being in the break for that long and then sticking with the group that was charging up behind him and then to still be around the finishes is darn impressive. And then Bowles-Dolman overall, I mean, they're just dominating over the past few weeks here. So they've really been putting it together. So one race that else was going on, and I'll talk about it real quick, and then I'll go to my winners. The Tour of the Alps. We'd mentioned that we were going to talk about that, and we kind of skipped over it. It's a little prep race. 5 days. They were, Monday through Friday here, or Sunday, I don't know, whatever. It was 5 stages, and all kind of like 130 kilometers, all climby. Froome's there, looking for, you got Froome, you got Aru, Thibaut Pinot, Astana's there. Astana won like 3 stages or something like that. Froome looked really struggling on one, I think it was second or third day. There's a long climb. He's like, his whole team, I kept rewinding to try to figure out what was going on because they're chasing. And I'm like, oh, maybe he had a flat? Because all of a sudden he catches up to the group and then he goes right to the front. And the next thing you know, they're like on the front drilling it. Well, I rewound again and it looked like he just got dumped. So, we've seen that before where sometimes the stage, anyway, it's Froome. I know you're rolling your eyes. No, not rolling my eyes. It's just, it's an interesting thing where, I don't know what the deal is, how he gets dropped and then he's drilling on the front, but he looks pretty good. Thibaut Pinot ends up coming out and winning the whole thing, today. Spoiler. But my winners was actually going to be, Ben O'Connor, Dimension Data. He actually won stage 4 yesterday. And that team, I think that's the first race they've won this year. So, the last few years we've had Education First or, the Argyle Cannondale team kind of struggling to get their win. And then Talansky finally gets one at the Tour of California. That's kind of what they've been going through this year. I mean, Cavendish is the only thing he's been doing is winning the first one to the pavement. And he hasn't been winning race. Well, no, he did win something. It seemed like early in the year. Didn't he win maybe a sprint? Maybe in Dubai or Qatar or Oman, one of those. But yeah, other than that, he hasn't been around in the sprints just because he's been on the ground. And the team's not doing anything else in that stead. So anyway, good for him, Ben O'Connor, and he actually finished pretty well up there as well today. How about a loser? Who do you have for that? It's a tough pick. I'm going to go with Quick Step because they just absolutely destroyed the classics and then they were totally absent in the finish of what was that, Amstel Gold. I mean, they can't even get on the podium. I know. Come on, guys. That's pretty weak. That's embarrassing. What was embarrassing is no, I don't have anything.
I'm not a fan, and I know locally this is not going to bode well with a few people.
What?
I am not a fan at all of Quick Step. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's their kits. I don't like the
You don't like the Wolfpack?
I don't. Oh, and the name. Given names like that, there's nothing worse than doing that. Who gave him that name?
I have no idea. I think there's a video out that kind of talks about the history of the Wolfpack, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I'm going to take a wild speculative shot in the dark here and assume that they gave it to themselves.
What? No.
Yeah. And if that's the case, F that. Sorry. My losers, though, are EF Education First. They didn't do really much here in the classics, winning, and then Tour of the Alps. They're non-existent really there. Mike Woods, should be focusing. I know he's focusing for the Giro, so we'll wait and see what there. But there's not much to see.
Do you know if he's, speaking of Woods, is he racing Liege-Bastogne-Liege? That seems like a good race for him. So does Fleche Wallonne. I mean, I thought that would be.
Well, he was at the Tour of the Alps, so he did not do that. So I don't know if he's going to be doing Liège. We can obviously take a look and see if he's signed up at all for him. But it seemed like he was maybe going a little better than that this time last year. I know there were some races he was looking pretty good at, but he did a little bit different schedule. Didn't go to the Tour Down Under, so I don't know. All right, let's hit into the local stuff here. We got upcoming Liege-Bastogne-Liege, still the Nevada City Classic for the classics.
Yeah, I hear that's still a go.
Yeah, you want to give an update on that and what happened there?
It's still a go.
Well, it was
I think
possibly
they
not a go for a little bit.
Yeah, from what I heard, they lost one of their title sponsors and were looking a little short on funds, so they did a kind of crowdsourced effort to get some money in to keep the race going. And I believe Curt pointed out that City Council met recently and decided that no, it's still a go. They'll figure out the funding as they go through it, but the race is still on. So it's I think there's going to be a continued effort over the next few weeks to try and raise some money to get that squared away.
Right. And that's a great race. So speaking of races that are canceled, though, we have Cascade Classic. Cascade
Classic is off the calendar. It sounds like there was, based on their social media post, they were a little ambitious in trying to reorganize the entire event on such short notice. I don't know if they just weren't able to secure permits or if they weren't able to get all the road closures or whatever it ends up being, but off the schedule with the plan to come back next year. And then, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so my heart issue, I was planning on going. Matter of fact, my wife, just unbeknownst, books VBRO out there. We're set to go. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm got to start doing some training. Then this little setback, I was like, well, maybe we'll cancel. And then the race itself gets canceled. Luckily, she got the insurance. So
smart, planning ahead.
So we're not going. So with that, we have some other races coming up. Tour of the Alps, we just finished that. Tour Romandy, Tour de Yorkshire, and then the Giro coming up. So some pretty awesome races. And then Tour Gila is going on right now, and we will probably give a breakdown of how that goes.
Yeah, that's a brutal race from what I've read.
Yeah, if you don't like climbing, don't go. Altitude too, so you got a combo of those two.
Yeah.
Things that make you go, what do you got for us today, Chris?
Not so much, but Sea Otter Classic's going on right now, and that's usually the point of the year where most companies roll out their new gear, new tech. Then and Tour de France are usually big points for that. I saw that Campagnolo is coming out with 12 speed. I think it's, on one hand, cool especially if you're a single chainring kind of person. It gives you a little bit more gearing selection on the back end there. Obviously, they've vetted it thoroughly and decided it's a great plan. The only thing that's slightly concerning is that hubs can only be so wide, so your cassette is going to have to get a little narrower on a cog by cog basis, and you could potentially start running into some chain line issues where you've really got to have everything dialed in perfectly to avoid any type of skipping or any type of rattling. So it's we're on 12 now. I think I've only in the past year jumped up to 11, so I don't know how far I'm going to be behind the ball on this, and when is 13 coming out, and so on and so forth.
I know I'm still on 10. So what's interesting, I don't know if you've heard of the website Inner Ring.
Yeah,
he does some really good in-depth stuff, and usually one of the things he'll do during the year is start of the year, end of the year. I think it's usually start of the year, so maybe he already did one. Is what the teams are riding. And I know one time last year he did a breakdown of all the tour teams, World Tour teams, and who's riding Shimano now. I mean, that's a Shimano and SRAM kind of are the majority now. When I was younger, it was no one's ever won on Shimano the Tour de France. It's all Campy forever.
Yeah.
And then Greg LeMond comes along and has a Mavic-ish type of thing. So, but now I think majority are Shimano and SRAM. So
yeah,
who's even riding this 12? Is this kind of Campy's way of trying to, hey, look at us?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody that's actually using it yet. I don't know if it's kind of on guys' bikes and just kind of on the down low for the time being.
Are they electronic too?
The 12-speed?
The Campy in general.
Campy does have electronic, yeah. I think it's called EPS.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody's on it yet. I haven't dug into the details on it.
Well, we'll find out. Any other cool stuff for you from Sea Otter Tech?
I'm sure there's something exciting mountain bike related going on that is well over my head.
Yeah. So mine is Lance Armstrong. This is the news of the day. Settles this federal case with the U.S. government and Floyd Landis. So the initial reports out yesterday, they're a little weird and around, and who was some of the cycling sites. I think they changed them to kind of get it correct, but it seemed like they had trouble initially reading what it was, and it was basically Lance pays the settlement, $5 million to the U.S. government. Of that, Floyd Landis, since he started the case with the whistleblower thing, he gets 1.1 million of that, and then on top of that, Lance has to pay Floyd's attorney's fees of 1.65 million.
And
so Lance is out 6.65.
And what could he have potentially been out?
100 million. And that wouldn't have necessarily, I mean, that's what the government could have got him for. I think that would have been, well, what's interesting is they were going to have to show their damages. And you do fraud, that's one thing, but the damages themselves, that's the weird part about it. This has been Lance's argument, is all these companies and all these teams, think about Trek over this time, they all profited so much from him, even though he's defrauding in a sense. They're all like, I mean, the world of cycling just had a big boost during that time. So I don't know. Anyway, the point is they settled it out. Now we can move on. And do you have any comments about that?
About that, is Landis going to be paying back anybody that did the Fund Floyd program?
I don't know. It seems like two giant scumbags wrestling right now. I mean, people have for some reason they have a lot of sympathy for Floyd because he brought the hammer down on this whole thing. But I mean, it's still a little douchey, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I would think so.
So definitely. I don't know. I'm
a little distracted here in the background. I just got a text message from teammate Travis Retzer, who had a great Winchester recently. He just told me he got third place at Sea Otter.
Is he doing mountain bikes?
No, they do some road stuff there. I have no idea what race he did.
Oh,
I'm guessing he did the circuit race in the 35 plus 123. So well done, Travis.
Good. This is a climby type of race, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Even the crit, I think, is climby there.
So good for he definitely goes up. Well, let's go to that. So we had this weekend Winchester and the Auburn Criterium out here in the Auburn area. I can't emphasize enough. I mean, I posted out some interviews of just the 35s, talked to these guys afterwards. That race was phenomenal as far as the weather was good. And we started, fairly, almost 10 o'clock. Didn't have to have any arm warmers, knee warmers. I may have had arm warmers. I don't remember. But it was warm enough. Never felt cold. Like for that reason, it wasn't windy, didn't rain. That road surface is great. The community was cool. It was awesome. I mean, and yet, that race hammers me, but it was people have got to come out for this.
Yeah, it's not a course that's geared toward any of my strengths, but it's really well run. It's a fantastic course. I mean, I'm not going to do well there, but I enjoy it all the same. I mean, it's a great fun descent, a bunch of punchy climbs, and it's closed roads, it's smooth tarmac, it's an enjoyable experience, and it's definitely one of the more challenging courses that I've been on.
You say you're not going to do well there, yet you have guys, not taking anything away from Jay Newton, who got second in the Masters field, who he's not particularly a climber. I mean, power guys can get up. John Novikov, he stayed up with the group too. You can, if you focus and do right, I think earlier in the year, I think you would have been just fine when you were riding kind of phenomenal, what I would say. So I don't know right now, but and what's else is cool about it, let's say you don't do so good. It's a circuit race. They only run it for us. It was like an hour, and it's 11 to 13 minute times on the loop. You pull off and you watch the race. It's not like you're stuck out there in the middle of nowhere.
I may have done that.
And you may have done that. Yeah. Well, anyway, so it was pretty good. We can go through some. I don't even have the results up here, but we had the interviews. You can listen to that to the last episode. We posted out, talked to Jonathan Baker, who's actually now with Touchstone Racing, and he's out at Gila. So good luck to him.
I think defending champ for Gila. Right?
Yeah, I think he won every single event there last year.
He did.
Trial, everything. He's out there with his teammate Jeremy Cottle. And then we talked to Jay Newton of Pete's. We talked to Travis Retzer, our own teammate for Data Driven. He got third. And Zach Morvant, who won the time trial a few weeks ago, and then comes out there and smashes this thing as well.
Yeah, I think on the P12 side, Cam Bronstein won. Yeah. He got in a three-man break with Andrew Shimizu and
guy from Specialized. I'm trying to remember the name.
Specialized Muscle Milk Jackson, I believe. And with a lap to go, Cam and the Muscle Milk racer kind of got away from Andrew, and Cam won, Muscle Milk second, Andrew third, and then in the field for the P12s, Zach Morvant won the field sprint with incredible ease. So he's riding really well. So great results there for those guys.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then the next day we had, there was some other races. We had talked about the women not having a race. There was one field, I think Ellie Velez won, but she was the only one that showed up in her category. That's got to suck for her. I don't know if they ran them together with some others. Now, no disrespect to her at all, because she's flying right now. Yes. I mean, I think she could have won. If you had 100 women show up, she might have won. I think she's actually heading down to Redlands, we saw. So
yeah, I'm not sure if she's just on a composite team.
Yeah, I imagine, because she's not on a team otherwise. Right. Yeah, so anyway, congratulations to her. Then we had the Auburn Crit the next day. As I described, I was in the ER, so I did not get to show up. I really was going to, but the doctor said, maybe not.
But you were still there.
But I went and watched anyway, so it was cold. And, we got a message from Chris DiMattei. I think he was one of the directors.
Yes,
at the Auburn Crit.
Correct.
So he was asking kind of us, the Between Two Wheels podcast, why we didn't show up. I gave my heartfelt reason as to why. I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Why you didn't? You don't need to specifically show. You went out there with me as well.
I spectated. Yeah. So, it's a somewhat technical course.
Yeah.
It's got a sharp set of turns after a descent, and I've got a little bit of descending and cornering hang up going right now. So I would have just been a disaster and in the way more than anything. So I kind of opted to not put anybody else at risk while I kind of work through those little handling issues. But I still came up and watched, and it's a fantastic course. It's really unique. It's got some fun components to it as well. It's got that cool old downtown vibe to it. It's a bummer that it didn't have more folks there because the racing was pretty exciting for as small as the fields were.
Oh, totally. And just in my defense, I pre-reg, so hey, they got their money out of me. I wasn't there but the racing was actually pretty awesome.
It was.
And for the small fields that we had, it felt kind of like, oh, now we're just watching the break. We're just watching the breaks work, and right. It was kind of cool. I mean, because there were strong guys, and you get the feeling that even a bigger group, it's going to be similar guys, maybe the exact same ones.
Yeah, give or take a handful. But
course.
Yeah, it's definitely a race where, it's not going to come together with a field sprint of 50. I mean, the course you're not going to have that happen. So it's definitely one where you've got to be on your toes at all times and cover attacks and make sure you're in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Ronnie Leavitt. We got there. He had already gone down, but he went into one of the hay bales on that first left-hand corner. I don't know what happened. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but his teammate Zimney ended up just getting narrowly pipped at the line by Sayers, is in 35s. And Chris Baker, Touchstone, won that race. and this is what's so cool. I guess the reason I was bringing up this, DiMattei was saying, hey, is it the combo of these two races? Is it too difficult? Is that why people maybe didn't show up? He's calling us out saying, hey, is this race too hard for you to go back to back? And I'd say absolutely not. I mean, look, you have the day before Chris Baker, Touchstone, was having some trouble. Who's a very strong rider, and maybe, different day he would be fine at Winchester. But then he goes and wins the Auburn Crit. So, you have both of those races are not just pure climbers races. They're power races. And climbers do fine there, and power riders do fine there. And it's fun to see the combo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Brian Zimney, he's got a really cool video of the last couple of laps from his handlebar perspective. And it's really cool to see Baker's kind of finishing winning move there. And it was a great attack.
I did not notice. I mean, I thought we're just standing there watching it that Baker, because he'd kind of been off the lap before going into the bell lap. So I thought, oh, maybe he just stayed away. But no, he gets caught and then dropped and then comes back and snags those guys at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the race is won.
Definitely. But yeah, kind of to your earlier point, they're definitely not, I mean, they're tough races, they're tough courses, but the timing of them where they're, the circuit race is maybe 75 minutes if you're in the P1 too. They're not so hard that you can't do them back to back.
Oh, totally. I mean, people were doing doubles. It would be interesting if Curt was here because he experienced, I don't know if it was just on social media, some weird mountain bike event that was up there at the same place at the same time. It was drawing like tons of people. I don't know, tens of hundreds of, I don't know how many. Other than I went through, sorry to let you go here. I'm coming back Sunday, and we stopped with the kids in Granite Bay at Dutch Bros, and they're way over talkative at those places. If you've been, they're like finding all this info about me that I'm trying not to divulge. And the kids are laughing, but they're like, "Oh, did you go to the bike race?" And I'm thinking, "Well, actually, yes, we just did." But they're talking about mountain bike because so many people were coming back down through, having been to this mountain bike event.
Yeah, the scoop I got from Curt on it is it's mountain bikes. That event is not sanctioned. It's on just some dude's private property up in Grass Valley, and they've got...
That doesn't sound like a liability issue at all.
Nah, not at all. A bunch of just community things where they do like kids races. They do some downhill stuff. They do enduro type races. I guess it's called the TDS Enduro. I'm guessing that it's pretty well attended because it is the weekend before Sea Otter. So geographically, that all lines up well for some big name guys. But yeah, the stuff I saw on social media made it look like it was incredibly well attended from a racer and spectator perspective.
So I think Auburn could get a better turnout. Maybe it has to do with, we talked to Sean Bagley, last week about the conflict with his race. So we had Kingsburg and Visalia. And what do you know about the turnout on both of those? It looked like it was better.
It was definitely better. I was watching both, really, I guess we can't call Winchester and Auburn the same race, but I was watching kind of the NorCal and Central Cal pre-reg numbers as the week progressed last week, and Visalia in particular was the one that I thought would do incredibly well because of the money and promotion that was being put into it. And at the end of the day, they end up having some really good numbers with most of the fields sitting around 50 people. P12, I think, was just around 50. Big names came out. I didn't see a lot about Kingsburg. They had a pretty cool pricing structure for the payout for winners. It was dependent upon how many people actually registered. And my guess is they didn't do as well as Visalia, but they still had a decent turnout.
Let's talk about quickly going over some of those the recap. So Kingsburg, P12, Tyler Locke of Sport Clean won. John Franz coming in second. Davis Bike Club. Owen Jalot of Team Cliff Bar. Jacob Frandsen of SoCal Cycling, and Matt Michael of Turan Elite. In the women, Brooke Danaher, no team mentioned. Haley Nilsson, She Spoke Racing. Catherine Gunchurch of the Velo Club Legrand. And in the Masters 35, Sam Benedict over Michael Cordova of Teams Mike's Bikes. And then Michael Cordova of North Rim Adventure Sports. And then Dave Gunman of Tarun Elite. Do you want to look at the Visalia? Just kind of pick some of these off too.
Yeah. Ones that's not on here, and I don't have the top 5. I just have the top spot. Is they did a men's 2-3 race, and John Franz won that by quite a good margin. It looked like he must have had a really early jump on his sprint because he had plenty of time to post up. And I think Sean Bagley got second or third in that race.
Yeah, I think he got second.
Okay.
And I think he got third in the Masters, I want to say 45 to Dean LeBurge.
Okay.
So Sean had a good day. It's his own race, goes out there and does his thing. Maybe, Sean can sprint, so.
You got to protect that winning purse, keep it in the event.
Exactly.
So the P12 looks like Justin Williams, who we talked to earlier this year at Chico, just dominated the sprint there as well. He had a big jump and took the win. Second place was Ethan Batt of SoCal Cycling. Third place was Tyler Locke, Support Clean Sport. Fourth place was Gavin Murray with Mark Pro Racing. And fifth place with Jeff Linder with Tarun Elite. I imagine bar bat stuff. I mean, Tarun, they're still keeping themselves ticking away at those top 10. So they must be. I mean, they've been putting in some really good results.
One I saw that was pretty interesting was the Masters. It says 34, but I think it's actually 35.
I think 35 is a safe bet. Yeah.
Sam Benedict of Team Mike's Bikes, barely over Rashawn Bahati, who's now racing Masters, and then Dave Grunman in third. But it was a bike throw. You don't see Bahati getting really beat, so pretty impressive actually.
Yeah, it was a great bike throw, great finish for that race. I wasn't sure if it was just those two that just got a good gap on the field in their sprint, because I didn't see anybody else in the picture.
It could have been. I don't know. I just thought the finish, and either that or they just came out of that corner blazing and no one else can hold with them. So how do we get more racers to these races?
I'm not sure. One thing we got to jump on really quick. Sorry. Women's P123.
Okay.
Fifth place, Ellie Velez, no team. Mentioned her earlier, doing really well at Winchester. So that's impressive to go from Winchester down to Visalia. So obviously it can be done. Fourth place was Michaela McPherson. She's from Show Air 20, their development team. Third place was Daniela Garcia from LaGrange Racing. Second was Evelyn Hound with Jackaroo. And then the winner was Hannah Mugi, and I didn't see a team listed for her. I thought she was associated with DNA Racing, though.
Yeah, I think she is, but for some reason it doesn't always get posted on there.
Now, back to your earlier question. How do you get more people to turn out? I mean, I think one of the bigger challenges is that both of these weekend events were pretty unique, and the challenge that I think they face is that they were competing against one another just for attendance.
Yeah.
I think Winchester is always going to be a race that will struggle for big numbers because it's a little far away from most everything. It's a haul for the Bay Area.
There's an In-N-Out burger on the way up, though. I mean,
there is, yeah. No,
Chipotle.
There's a lot to do on the way up. You can stop in Davis and then in Sac and so on and so forth. But it's far away for the Bay Area guys, and it's a hard race. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough race where it's like, it's one where you're really going to have to earn the result. I think the biggest challenge there is just going to be the geography. It's a little far away from everything. I think Auburn is one where it's been on the calendar, then it's been off the calendar, and it's been back on the calendar. So I think as long as it gets some consistency of being a race that's on the calendar, and after a couple of years, guys getting to see the race course and getting to see how exciting of an event it can be, it'll start to draw in some big numbers. And obviously it helps to not have multiple events on the same weekend that could potentially draw away from one another.
Yeah, and Chris had mentioned to DiMattei, he's going to push to have the race again next year. He's going to try to do it on a time when it doesn't conflict with other big races on the calendar. He thinks he could get decent size up there. If it's not the same time as Visalia. That race, a few years ago, it was good fields. So I don't know. I have a picture of Curt posting up. I think, I don't know if he's winning the 3s or the 35s or maybe just in the 3s then, posting up with a great win. And there's a decent group of cyclists behind. There's people lining the road.
I think it's like spectators 4 deep at least.
Well, well, I don't know about that.
But no,
I could Photoshop that.
Yeah, I think it's an issue of just, people getting familiar with what the course is like. You just hear, Auburn, that's far away. I don't want to go there.
I know.
But it's a dynamic course, and it's, it offers some really exciting racing.
Have you seen the crowds that show up at Snelling?
There's
nothing out there. There's outhouses.
That's true. There's other racers that have flatted out and want to see how the race ends.
Yeah.
That's a big turnout.
Come out to, anyway, these races are over. We've got other things coming up. Any other great discussion points you have for local?
Not a great discussion point, more of another frowny face on the old NCNCA calendar. But SunPower Racing announced today that Pescadero is off for 2018. It sounds like they're doing the county or the state or the city is doing some road maintenance, and permits are not going to be available, unfortunately. So instead of putting on another event on some other roads, they're going to pump the brakes and put it back on the calendar next year.
All right. Well, in the next week we have Sea Otters coming up right now. We have a Red Kite this weekend. Then we're looking at Mike's Bikes, Cat's Hill on the 28th. I'm probably not going to do that now. Wente Road Race, Salinas Crit, and then whatever Golden State in 2-3 weeks or so.
Yeah, and then for the traveling minded folks, Dana Point Grand Prix is on the 29th. There's usually a contingent of guys that double up between Cat's Hill and Dana Point. The other bummer about Pescadero falling off the calendar, it was the same weekend as Cascade, so that's kind of now a totally free weekend.
Yeah. We'll just talk real quick about Joe Martin Stage Race. Great one for the domestic guys as they're keying up for Gila. And then Redlands, Sam Bassetti, coach at Data Driven Athlete. Who's he with this year? Elevate KHS, is that?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, and last year he was with Mark Pro. He won the Sprinters jersey, so congrats to him. Otherwise, what do you have for winners and losers in the NorCal scene or anywhere? You can take it where you want.
I can take it wherever I want. Well, thank you. For losers, again, it's such a harsh term, but it's a bummer that
winners
we're
then.
The winners. Well, the winner's me because I got a free weekend. The losers, I think it's just going to be the racers, unfortunately, losing two really cool races to various circumstances, with Cascade falling off and Pescadero, because I think those are both, awesome and unique races in their own right.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about the P12 at Auburn with Mike's Bikes and Oak Valley kind of going head to head, and Mike's Bikes taking basically 1, 2, 4 in the sprint, in the crit. Who won? Garrett won. Hankins second was Roman, and they were right together. And then there was a little battle in second place, third place for third, and it was Andrew Shimizu and Matt Chatlong, and Matt obviously could out sprint him, but it looks like Andrew was doing the team thing. So
yeah, it was Garrett and Roman coming to the line together. It was one of those, you take it, no, you take it, you take it. I mean, they had a healthy gap over third and fourth.
And then you had Timmy Bauer getting fifth. He'd been hanging out with Josh Carlin. So it was an interesting race. Good times watching that. My winners is Andrew. He did a good job being a teammate all weekend for Cam, and then for Roman and Garrett and plus, I like Andrew.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy and definitely earns winners.
And you should check out the podium picture. My wife this morning was like, I saw Andrew. This guys are so great. I liked it that they weren't that serious. They're holding him like a baby on the podium. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Do you want to touch on Barbat briefly?
Yeah, I want to go over my losers.
Oh,
but you want to do Barbat first?
No. Let's hear your losers.
Well, you made it big when you start getting hate posted on you online. So we're a big time show now, Chris, because we got some hate posted on YouTube. YouTube commenter did not like my analysis of the Phil Guyman defamation issue. And if you take a look at that and you watch it in the whole thing, what you'll basically see is, hey, there's a lot of talk out there as someone's going to sue, Cancel is going to sue Phil Guyman for defamation. So as an attorney, I did a little breakdown, and I just wanted to do it for the layman to kind of understand how it would walk through. Okay. And my whole point at the end is like, they're not going to get him for this. It's very difficult to do, especially as a public figure. You can watch it, see it. Someone did not like that. And he said something like, Christ, why don't you first talk to a defamation attorney? Well, I've done those cases, but regardless, his points that he did not like about it seem to not have actually paid attention to the video. If you want to take proper criticism of me, I am all for it. Please do so. So anyway, my wife had a good chuckle about it. So did I. And hey, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but check out a defamation video, and you too can take a shot at me as well. Okay, what do you have for Barbat? So the loser is me.
Yeah, definitely. I think you should have hyped up Guyman more in the video.
I did look at the guy's page, and he just all on YouTube, and just seems to only like and watch Phil Guyman videos. So go figure.
I like Phil Guyman.
Okay.
I don't.
Barbat. What do you got?
Barbat. Let's hit up. We'll go top 5 for some of the major categories. P12, we're looking at bar right now. 5th place, Jeff Bichek from Davis Bike Club. 4th place, Chris Reichert, Mike's Bikes. 3rd place, Jason Hammond, Sun Power Racing. They're actually tied in points. 2nd place, John Franz, Davis Bike Club. And current leader is Jeff Linder with Tarun Elite. He's got a 9-point lead over John Franz. Cat 3 is kind of wonky because some of the guys here in the top 5 are no longer Cat 3 racers. 5th place, Morgan Cole, Sun Power Racing. 4th place, Brian Kellison, Penn Velo. 3rd place, no longer a Cat 2, but still has some bar points in the Cat 3. Stefan Creason, Data Driven Athlete Racing. 2nd place, Jeff Scott, Data Driven Athlete Racing. And he's actually in a numeric tie with Yatwa Mitchell, who is now a Cat 2. No team listed there. So I think Jeff might have an opportunity to leapfrog over Yatwa as time goes on here. 35 plus 1, 2, 3. 5th place, Michael Claudio, Thirsty Bear. 4th place, Jeremy Cottle, Touchstone. 3rd, James Enright, Tarun Elite. 2nd, after a good weekend of racing, Sam Benedict with Mike's Bikes. And current leader, no shock here, is Chris Coble, Olympic Club. Looking at, let's jump into the 45 1, 2, 3. 5th place is Dean LeBurge with Pete's. 4th place, Rick Reinhardt with Folsom Bike. 3rd place, Richard Nichols with Race for Research, Make-A-Wish. 2nd place, Jerome Nadal with Thirsty Bear. And the leader is Chris Ott. Let's jump into the, we'll go women's P12 here. So 5th place, we've got Marissa Axel with JL Velo. 4th place, Shelby Trammell with Cycle Sport. 3rd place, Ellie Velez, no team. 2nd place, Hannah Mugi with DNA Cycling. And leader is Melanie Wong with Mike's Bikes.
Yeah, she's been strong early season.
Definitely.
You got them all then?
That's it.
Wow. Fascinating. No. So, look, here's what I would like to say. So, I'm going to start collating through some of our Facebook, some of our YouTube, any other. If you guys make comments about the show, we'll pass along some of the good things. Jason Graffath always likes to make good comments. So, he's got some, if there's some praise but the biggest thing I want to do is, if you, like we said, we're going to be at Tour California. If you guys have some suggestions, people you'd like us to talk to, certain things you'd like us to do on video, Curt will wear his lovely sweater. Give us your feedback, and maybe we can, if you have some good ideas that we find are appropriate, maybe we'll do it.
I've heard Curt will do anything for the video, so keep that in mind.
I've not heard that, but that sounds exactly like Curt.
I've heard it just now.
Okay. Anything else you want to give us before we head out for the weekend? It's a little hot in my office right now.
It's a little toasty.
I don't know what the heck is going on.
So what are you going to do with your downtime?
I can ride my bike. Cardiologist said around you could spin around Folsom, he said. So
Has he seen that most of your workouts don't leave Folsom?
Spin around Folsom. Oh, okay. I don't know. So I'll do a little riding, not anything intense, keep the heart rate low. I coach my son's high school volleyball team, and looks like they've won their division for the year. So now we're going to be preparing for the playoffs. So that's pretty exciting. Nice. So I'll be doing that. I started taking more stats during the game. I've started to break down stats. I was doing a lot of collating and stat work last night for no apparent reason. And with my downtime, damn it, Chris, I'm going to spend more time with my family.
Well done.
No, probably not. I'm going to work on this podcast.
I'd start with the family.
Yeah, that's why I'm still at work at 6 o'clock on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Speaking of.
Yeah, so we're out.
We're done.
Any last parting shots, Curt? All right. As always, useless. Yeah. Chris, any last parting thoughts?
No, I just hope to see you back on the bike in a race capacity soon here.
Yeah, me too. So I appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, this is Tyler Janke, Chris Flower, Curt Mills. Thanks, everybody. Stay classy.
Always.
All right, bye.